Welcome back to Config Craft. In part 1, we unboxed all of the components for our compact ITX NAS. Now in part 2, it's time to bring everything together inside the Jonsbo N3. So please follow if you would also like to make a similar build. Let's get started. So let us first take the motherboard out of the anti-static package. The motherboard contains one NVMe SSD slot on the front and there is one slot on the back. To make the build, we will keep the motherboard on the box that it came in. And first, we lift the retention arm and we will open up the place where we would place the CPU on the motherboard. Now we need to be careful to align the arrow to the arrow on the motherboard. If the CPU is not placed in the correct position, then the pins can get damaged. If everything is done correctly, the lid should pop right off. And then you can secure the CPU with the retention arm. Now let's prepare the CPU cooler. So inside the kit we find thermal paste and we also find some screws. So here we have our CPU cooler, and the first thing that you have to do is peel off this label. So taking our fan again, we follow the instructions that came with it, and conveniently the fan is configured for the LGA 1700 socket, which is the same as on our board. So we first install these screws. And then we apply the thermal paste. Like so. And then we put our cooler in place. And then we fix the back plate on the other side, just like this. We loosely tighten the screws by hand first, and then we use the included tool with the thermal right kit to finally secure these screws in place, just like so. All nice and secure. Next we install 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM in our motherboard, 2 sticks for each slot. So just line them up carefully and press down until they click in place. Finally, it's time to install our 1TB WD Blue SN5000 NVMe SSD. So let's just take it out of the package. So first we remove the motherboard's M.2 heatsink. There are 3 screws that we need to remove first. This is the second one. And finally the third screw. There are two thermal stickers that come pre-attached, so peel the first one. Install the SSD at a 45-degree angle. And then peel off the second sticker. And reattach the heatsink and secure it in place. And there we have it, our fully assembled motherboard. In the next step, we'll prepare a Jonsbo N3 case. For that, we take our modular PSU and the included wires out of the box. And we begin by unscrewing the 4 screws, 2 on each side of the case. After we remove the screws, the lid will pop right off. Next, we remove the 2 screws that hold the pre-installed fans. These fans are used to cool the hard disks. In order to install the power supply, I found it easier to first remove this metal strip and then remove this PSU bracket. So our power supply will attach with this metal bracket using the 6 screws. Removing the metal bracket proved to be a tough challenge, so I had to buy some new screwdrivers. So you will also need a long screwdriver just like this. So I have gone ahead and connected the metal bracket to the PSU and also connected the modular cables. The first one is 24-pin ITX power connector. The second one is the CPU power cable. The third is the SATA power. And the fourth and last one is the Molex power connector. Now we will screw the bracket and the PSU inside the case. So we are mounting it back with a iFixit screwdriver. So it can be done with any small screwdriver as well that you may have. You need a longer screwdriver only to open the screws for the very first time. Now the PSU is in place, we will also put back the metal strip in. Although it's not necessary to take out, but I still did since it made it easier for me. Now the PSU is secure. You can do the cable routing through the 2 cavities that are present, one behind the motherboard and the other for the data cables. This is a 4-pin Molex Y cable extension. You will need it if you are also using a Corsair SF750 inside Jonsbo N3. This is because the SF750 PSU contains only one Molex power cable. So just go ahead and connect the extension to the power cable from the PSU like this. I've already connected the SATA power cable from the motherboard to the backplane of the case, as you can see highlighted here. Next, I will connect 2 ends of the extension cable with the Molex connectors on the backplane. And these 2 connectors are for connecting the fans that the case came with. Since currently I have just one hard disk that I want to attach to my NAS, so I will just use the SATA cable that came with the motherboard. I will now attach the SATA data cable to the backplane to complete the assembly of the backplane. Now that everything is in place, we can finally install the motherboard. Carefully lower the motherboard into the case. And secure it with 4 screws on each corner. This is how the build will look like before connecting the wires to the motherboard. And our backplane is already complete. We will now begin connecting the wires. So first we'll connect the CPU power cable from the PSU to the motherboard. And then we connect the 24-pin ITX power cable to the motherboard. Next we connect the fan cable of the CPU cooler to the motherboard's CPU fan header. Now we have just a few more cables left to connect that include case cables such as the front panel header, USB cable, USB-C cable and the SATA data cable. This is how the final build looks like after attaching all the cables, doing some cable management with zip ties and velcro strips. The only things remaining now are to connect the case fans and to put the top lid back on. At last, it is time to mount the hard disk inside the NAS. We first connect the rubber mounts and rubber handle that we got in the Jonsbo case kit with the Toshiba 20TB hard disk. And then we insert the hard disk in the case like so. Finally, we attach the magnetic front cover to complete our NAS build. If you enjoyed this build or have questions, drop a comment below. And don't forget to check out part 1 for the full unboxing. Subscribe to ConfigCraft for more server configurations, Unraid setups and build optimizations, all focused on making your system quieter, cooler and more efficient. Thanks for watching.